Right then, straight into a new week, and we're starting off with the Lotus, I think. So just a really quick scuff repair on this one. I think I said in the previous video, this is not in for a full respray by any means. It is just a repair job on this quarter, and we are doing a blend in as well. So this is not something that I do in the shop, frankly. We just do not do the blends, and I always make that very clear to customers. Because in my opinion they eventually fail, so we don't do them for a specific reason. However, on this car, the quarter is connected to this, it's connected to the front, goes all the way around and back round, so the entire panel in this instance would be basically the entire car. So we had to draw the line somewhere, and it is just a tidy up sort of deal for now. So we're going to have to soft edge it to there where there's a chrome piece, soft edge it around here, and then lose the fade in the middle there as well somewhere. So I don't like doing things like this. It's just not the normal way that we do things, but the customer is more than happy with that. I've made it very clear that it may well fail some years down the line, or some months, some weeks potentially even. We just don't know, frankly. But I'm always open, honest, tell people how it is basically. So, you know, it's done to a budget, that's how it is. Like I said previously as well, this car is riddled with faults anyway, so I think maybe in sometime in the future it might well come in for a full respray and a bit more work. But yeah, for now, just a quick 180 to buzz off the damage, doing a quick fiberglass repair there as well. Try and keep the colour away from that door. Got a decent match on the Spectro. Yeah, go from there really. Nissan next door is being collected tomorrow. Freya saw that over the weekend, happy. So that's going off. Jamie's collecting that for me tomorrow. We need to get the Jensen, the second Jensen, into a bit of filler to keep within that open window on the epoxy. And then, yeah, see what the rest of the week brings us really. Okay, that's the little alarm done then. So it's just the timer going off there. Actually, it's about to go on to bake cycle, so it's 5 minutes flash. Unmasked it as always, just so that there's no hard edges around where we've done the blends. I said in previous videos, or at the start of this video, can't remember, this is not the best way of doing this one, but it's just a improve only sort of deal. I think we've certainly managed to do that on this particular quarter. So like I said, this car's riddled with faults anyway. But yeah, that'll be fine for what it is. And then at the same time, save gas at this time of year. Some wheels in the booth as well, so just nice gloss black on these, set of 4 obviously. And, yeah, chuck it on a bake cycle now, time to go home. Then back on the Jensen. It's been a busy week, haven't had much chance to do much videos for the other cars that we've had in this week. It's just been a few everyday repairs and things like that, so they're not particularly interesting ones, didn't really record them. Weekend again now, so Tig's in on overtime for me as well, helping out with this one, so we need to push this one through a bit more. As I said, it's a weekend project, but I do want it out of the shop as quick as possible, so just going to start having a proper look round now, giving it a bit of a clean down, have a proper look and see exactly what areas we need to address. So there's some obvious bubbling along the top edge here. Obviously the bits that we've already started, very, very rough fiberglass work there, but it's all been fiberglass filled before, so it's really quite deep area that we're filling there. Bits and pieces of flash rust we've got to sand back to bare again, start over. And then the main thing, which is going to be of concern, is definitely going to be this bottom edge here. So I'll 80 grit that in a second, get that back to, well, I say bare, it's not going to be bare, I'm sure. It's definitely hiding some issues there, so see what it throws up. But other than that, the rest of the car is looking reasonably good. It is just a tidy up job, as we've got to keep remembering. It is not in for a full restoration, this one, so yeah, tidy up, make better sort of deal. Same goes for this rear bumper as well. We'll get all the stone guard off that. That looks awful. So yeah, crack on over the weekend, make some progress on this one now. Okay, so we've done a quick initial inspection. Circled a few of the areas which are definitely going to be problem areas, as you can see. So all along the top edge, like I said before, just bits of bubbling all over the car actually. They're not horrific. Has got micro blistering issues all over the car. This entire car has had a previous respray of some sort or another. But again, got to remember, we're not taking that all back to bare metal. This is not a restoration job. This is just a tidy up job. So we just can't go to that sort of extent. Realistically speaking, on something like this, we would normally only be buzzing back. If the paint looked half decent like this, we would normally only just be buzzing that back with a 400 or something like that. And it's ready to go, essentially. Shouldn't really be doing any repair work, filler work, all that sort of thing. But obviously with the rust areas or areas where there's definite issues, we have got to take it back to bare. Yeah, and again, this top edge here, you can see it. It's always difficult to catch things like this in the camera as such, but it's quite obvious in person. Yeah, not terrible, but like I said, it has had a previous restoration of sorts in the past, so we don't know what it's really hiding underneath this. Ignore how awful that looks at the moment. That's just the rough fill to start with. Yeah. Oh, you okay over there, Tig? Right, get sanding. Good news and bad news. It's about as expected really in most parts. So to be fair, areas like this, they have actually come back to bare metal quite nicely, which I wasn't really expecting. There's a few bits and pieces we've still got to touch in, but yeah, for the most part on things like that, we have managed to get back to bare. You can see in certain areas of the car, there's an extremely large amount of filler. So lots of repair work has been done in the past, as we kind of expected anyway. Arches are actually coming out all right. The rust work around there, I've seen worse than that on some modern day vehicles, to be honest, so they're not too terrible. But also, as expected, front and rear ends then, really not good at all. A lot of patching work and rust coming through, all sorts really. Rear end especially so. Yeah, quick chat to the customer now. Find out exactly what we need to do with these and what he wants done going forwards. I think, to be honest, it's probably going to be just a touch-in sort of deal. We'll epoxy it and fiberglass it most probably to make it an improve only sort of thing at this stage, and then potentially in the future sometime that can all be cut out, re-welded in and done the proper way, as it were. But obviously there's a huge cost implication for things like that, so we'll see how far he wants to go with this. Yeah, we'll do what we can. Okay, honestly can't remember exactly what the last video was. If I'm sounding a little bit out of breath as well, it's because this one has just run out of fuel on us. So we've had to push it into the booth. Without doubt, the heaviest, biggest lump we've had to push up that ramp and into the booth. But anyway, it's in here. I'll just show you around quickly then. So we have gone to the extent of taking the windows out as well and all the chrome pieces, just because it makes it easier to get this section bare metalled as best as possible. Boot is a little bit too far gone. It's, well, when I say boot on these, the rear hatch it's corroded badly on this one, so that will need to go back to Nick over at Classic Engineering at some point in the future for some full welding work, I'm sure. Give me 2 seconds, let me sort Enzo out. Okay, not sure where I got to, but yeah, glass out on the front, windows out, chrome pieces off. It's going quite a long way from just the quick tidy up job that it was meant to be, but never mind, it needs to be done still. Rear end then, so we bare metal that as much as possible. I think I said in previous, that does need to be cut out as well. That will 100% come back, unfortunately. But again, it is just not what the car was in for. Can't reiterate that enough. I know I keep banging on about it, but I just want to make sure you guys watching this know that this is, you know, it's all done to a budget. It's done down to what the customer wants, essentially. So it needs more. Doesn't justify it at this price. Doesn't justify it at this stage in this car's life, I suppose. But if it comes in for full restoration at some point again in the future, obviously we'll do things differently. But at the moment, it is just a tidy up. So we've tried to bare metal as much as possible. Areas like this has come out really nice. Areas like this, not so much. Yeah, again, you can see all the bubbling that we had before. We've got rid of that as much as possible. Tiny dent there. That was the only dent on the entire vehicle. So that obviously shows that it has had some sort of restoration work in the past. And, you know, we know that in any case because of the amount of filler work. Again, really thick here. Don't know if the camera shows that too well, but yeah, we've done all the arches as much as possible. And then this front end, as we mentioned before, was the worst of the lot. And that, again, 100% needs some welding work, unfortunately. But for now, I believe that's how it's going to be. So I'll have a chat with Nick, just to make sure that is what we're doing with this one going forwards. But yeah, it's going to come out nice, but it just will need various bits and pieces touching in the future. And if you think about it like this, the whole car will be resprayed, the whole car will be in a different colour essentially. So it'll be the colour that it needs to be, or it wants to go, you know, going forwards. It's just, then we can concentrate on the areas which really need work more extensively a little bit later on down the line, if that makes sense. So yeah, tidy up for now, full restoration potentially a little bit later on in the year, next year. Okay, as always then, so we've just gone in with the epoxy on the bare metal areas, as you've seen before. That's part of the reason why this one was bubbling, actually. So we had bubbling issues on these areas, especially where it was all bubbling through, and actually there was nothing wrong with it. There was no holes, there was no real rust, it's just surface rust. But it's basically probably what's happened in the past is someone has put some filler directly on top of the bare metal, which is an acceptable method. You know, people have done that for years and years and years. But it was likely done in a damp or cold environment. Filler cures, produces heat, produces moisture along with it, and then basically rusts from the inside out. So you get rust trapped underneath the filler, and then obviously it's losing battle, it starts working its way out. It becomes evident on the paintwork then eventually as bubbles. But there was nothing wrong with that metal, so yeah, it's all good. But anyway, that is the reason why we use the epoxy first. It just solves that issue. It's a nice waterproof corrosion barrier to start with. Filler work goes straight on the top of that after a 30-minute flash. No need for sanding with this particular one that we've used. Got several different ones in the shop. And good news as well, spoken to Nick over at Classic Engineering, so you can see I've not bare metal the hatch because that is now going off to be repaired properly this time round. We figured it was just the best way to do this one. I wasn't sure if the budget was in it for this car or not, but thankfully it is, or it's going to be. So yeah, it's just going to make the job a lot better because we know, you know, there's holes there, like I said, and just doesn't make sense to try and patch that in because we know that's going to fail. The other bits and pieces, they're not great, front and rear, as mentioned before. They're not fantastic, but they're not nearly as bad as this. So we can get away with doing a bit of fiberglass work on that sort of thing for a car like this particular one at this stage, all on the premise that it may well come back in the future for a proper restoration, as it were. So yeah. It is just a tidy up, improve only sort of deal. As I say very, very frequently, but there's a huge difference between doing something like this and the e-coated and epoxied bare metal shell Jensen that we've got next door. So yeah, enormous difference between the two. Yeah, it'll make a nice job out of it in any case. So on to the next stages now, like I said, 30-minute flash and then straight on with some filler before I go home for the day. Okay, that's me done for now then. A bit multicoloured at this stage as always with the filler work. Green is cured, fiberglass, fresh. But yeah, we've got the filler on there on top of the epoxy like I said. So it's ready to go to the next stages. Looks quite rough and ready as always, again at this stages, but I put it on where I need it to be. So it'll all get sanded off at the next few stages. Yeah, front end is the worst, as we said. That's got fiberglass and then normal filler over the top as well. I put it on quite thick around these edges here as well, just so it gives me a bit of build to sand back off, to get that shape back in there as well. It'll need a few skims. Always a bit tricky to see what's going on when it's so many different colours, but yeah, basically start sanding now. Get this one nice and straight again. You can hear Enzo is very much ready to go home. Where's Dino? Yeah, Dino is also ready. They've trampled all over the guide coat, as you can see, so the whole entire shop is looking like this. It's an absolute disaster zone. This dog's for you. All right, Enzo. Right, home time.